castle freak has all the markings of a classic horror movie. Suburban white family? Check. Creepy old castle? Check. Monster hidden away deep inside said castle? Check and check. What could go wrong? It opens up with this old lady feeding her cat. What a sweet old lady, living all alone in this big estate. She probably only leaves to go to church on Sundays, and for fun, she probably just whips the monster in her basement? Huh, okay. Now we meet the Riley family, John, Susan, and their daughter Rebecca. John just inherited this old castle from the lady we saw in the beginning. Little does he know, this house comes with some baggage. Speaking of the house, this is the real-life house of producer and president of Full Moon Pictures, Charles Band. I love that he lives in a real-life creepy castle. Anyway, John, being an American with a life back home, isn't really interested in living in the place, but selling it and everything inside. We quickly learned that it's not all rainbows and puppies for the Riley family. You see, not that long ago, John was a drunk. He was out driving under the influence and wrecked into a tree, resulting in his daughter becoming blind and actually killing his son. After this, Susan can't even look at her husband anymore. At night, when John can't sleep, he's out wandering around and runs into Agnessie, the caretaker. She worked for the Duchess of the castle before and knows all the gossip, mainly how the Duchess found herself an American husband and had a son. Everything was perfect for a while until the husband lost interest in him and moved back to America. Rumor is that she went crazy and killed their son, just as a way to get back at her husband. But, I mean, it's her son too, you know. The next morning, John starts to take an inventory of everything, taking his daughter with him. But remember, she can't see, so she probably shouldn't be left alone to wander around the house following a cat into the basement where a monster's hiding out. Yeah, he probably shouldn't let her do that. Well, because she can't see, she doesn't realize that there's a thing in there, and she walks away. But the cat doesn't. The creature chowing down on it, which gives it strength and makes it powerful enough to chew off its own thumb and slip off the shackles containing him in the room. Ew, that's nasty. Now, Becky thinks there's something wandering around the castle, but of course no one believes her. She can't see, what does she know? Well, elsewhere, the monster finally gets a chance to see himself in the mirror, after who knows how many years, and he does not like how he looks. That's 7 years bad luck, buddy. Well, breaking the mirror gets everyone's attention, but in the end they blame it on the wood warping. Yeah, sure.
Oh, the wood warped.
That night, the monster pays Becky a visit, and he doesn't seem like he wants to hurt her, but more infatuated with her. Well, she hears him and freaks out. By the time her parents get there, it's nowhere to be seen.
What is it? Who is here?
John does have a look around the house, where we get this pretty creepy shot of the creature hiding out under a blanket, and he's never seen. In the end, John finds himself in the mausoleum. Oh, of course this creepy old house has a mausoleum. Well, on the wall, he sees a plaque for Giorgio, and this child looks suspiciously like his son that died. In the morning, they call the cops, who find nothing, but even they admit they can't search all 150 rooms of the castle. John and Susan fight a bit, which results in John running up to the top of the tower, ready to take his life. But in the end, he can't. Instead, he heads to the bar. After 9 months sober, he gets sloshed. And lonely. He finds a prostitute to take back to his place for some wine and, well, other stuff. But they're not alone down there. A creature lurking in the shadows, being a peeping Tom. Once John passes out, it steals a bottle and gets ready to work his own magic. In the morning, the cops come looking for Sylvania. John was the last person to see her, and now she's gone missing. And Susan learns about John's night. Meanwhile, in the basement, old Syl wakes up, and she's not prepared for what's about to happen to her. I think you can see what's happening here. The monster isn't really a monster, he's just lonely and wants to get laid. You can't really blame a guy for that. Unfortunately, he's also hideous, and even a hooker won't give it up willingly. John meets with Giannetti, I think. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Do I look Italian? He's Agnesi's brother, and helping the Rileys with selling the estate. Anyway, John meets with him, and after learning that Sylvania's handbag was found in the castle, it looks like John's going to jail.
I'm afraid now they're going to arrest you.
What?
On top of that, Giannetti's gonna have to raise his fee, basically blackmailing John.
You bastard.
Well, Giannetti fills him in on something he didn't know. John's father's first wife was the Duchess. That's right, John's dad was married to the original owner of the house, which makes sense. I mean, he did inherit it, but still, John didn't know that.
No, my parents never said anything about this.
The Duchess couldn't divorce him because it would be a scandal. That means John's father was never really married to his mother.
So you, Giovanni, are the bastard.
Back at the castle, Agnesi hears a scream and goes down to take a look, finding Sylvania, but the monster finds her. Susan's had enough of her husband's behavior and decides to take Becky and get out of town, which can't look very good to the police officers walking up the driveway. They force her to stay, and she allows them to search the castle, where inside, John's trying to find a way to prove that he didn't kill Sylvania. But how? Well, he thinks he's figured it out. The key to all of this is in the mausoleum. John pulls little Giorgio's coffin out of the wall and breaks it open to find it's empty. Yes, if you haven't guessed it yet, Giorgio wasn't killed by his mother, but tortured by his mother. And now the monster you see is actually a fully grown Giorgio.
He's alive.
We know that, John knows that, but the cops, well, they're not buying it. And once they find the dead body of both Sylvania and Agnesi, well, John gets put into the clink. But while he's being interrogated, more cops go missing. That should be enough for him to prove his innocence, at least a little. I mean, now that he's got an alibi. But that's not good enough for John, who ends up getting a hold of a bat and knocks out the chief. Oof. While all this is happening, Becky's having her own problems because Giorgio breaks into her room and kidnaps her. He ends up taking her downstairs to the cellar and locks them together. He tries to make her see the boy he used to be, but obviously she can't see anything at all. Just as things start to get pretty disturbing, Susan comes in to put a stop to it, stabbing the dude in the back and running off. They go all around the castle for a while until they end up in the Dutch's room, and Giorgio sees the whip used on him for so many years. He obviously goes nuts, understandably so. The two girls eventually do make their escape, but Becky accidentally knocks over a vase, giving away their location, and they book it up some stairs to the roof, Giorgio following after. Up there, it looks like it's all over. But then, just in the nick of time, John shows up, ready for a fight. At first, it looks like he's got the upper hand. But then, Giorgio fights back, and John's knocked to the ground. Thinking quickly, he grabs its chains and puts them on himself, connecting the two half-brothers. And in a last-ditch effort, John jumps over the edge, Giorgio falling after. Down on the ground, John is still alive, but barely, and Susan finally forgives him for his past. And that was Castle Freak. Certainly true to the title. There was a castle and a freak. But did you know this was inspired by The Outsider by H.P. Lovecraft? It makes sense. It feels very Lovecraftian and is directed by Stuart Gordon, who had a thing for making Lovecraft movies. I thought the family overall did a pretty good job. You do feel bad for John, even with his demons, and you can tell that Susan's at her wit's end. The castle background is the perfect setting, and the fact that it's Charles Band's real-life house is just the icing on the cake. I guess the crew had to rush to clean up blood and guts because he was having a family reunion. Now that's pretty funny. All in all, this is an entertaining movie and well done, especially for Full Moon, who usually just puts out some pretty crappy B-movies. There was some work done here, and that alone makes this worth a watch. I give Castle Freak 3 Castle Freaks out of 4.
I didn't kill her. I f***ed her, okay?